So we don't have any slides. I just want to say a few words first. I mean, I came to UCSD a lot of years ago. Bob was a graduate student in those days. It's a special place, and when we were both here at the beginning, there was sort of a zeitgeist about cognitive science happening. You know, it was sort of an undercurrent coming together of kinds of things. And I think it's, you know, it's sort of very special if one time in your career you're sort of at the center of one of those kind of whirlwinds. I think we're sort of, I think now at another example of the same kind of feeling as zeitgeist that surely involves cognitive science, but it's sort of swirling about design. And today, computation has become part of really every discipline. And as we build things to help us think and communicate and collaborate and to understand complex phenomena, and hopefully to make the world a better place, design is playing a really key role in that. I think we see design at a point where it's sort of transitioning from being a craft to starting to become a science. And I think this is happening at a really auspicious time because the data available to derive the developing science, the scale of data that Ed and company showed you in the dolphin tanks, but that scale of data is happening everywhere. It's really, until a few years ago, it was unimaginable. And it's clear to me that UCSD has another opportunity to lead, just as it did in the early days of cognitive science. And I think there's no better time or no better place for that to happen. And I'm going to turn this over to Don. Don certainly needs no introduction to this audience. He was the founding chair of our department. He took early retirement from UCSD and moved on to a series of exciting positions, among other places, vice president at Apple, founded the Nielsen Norman Group. He's become an IDEO fellow. Most recently is the Breed Chair in Design at Northwestern. And as I know, just very personally, it's very difficult to leave UCSD, but it's very exciting to return. And I think thanks to Jeff, to the chancellor, as well as I hope from talking to Scott and me and with many other people across campus, Don is now returning to UCSD. And I'll let him tell you more about that and about the UCSD Design Lab. So Don Norman.
Can I have all these lights? Yeah. So I failed. I failed retirement. The recidivism rate, I've retired twice. And each time I retire, a new job comes along and my life gets busier and busier and busier. And I've been recalled. A couple months ago, Pradeep Khosla, the chancellor of UCSD, showed up at my home in Palo Alto asking me to come back. So I came back and I looked over the campus, and he's a champion of design. He used to be dean of engineering at Carnegie Mellon, which has a really good school of design, plus the Human Computer Interaction Institute, HCII. Plus, of course, a really strong department of psychology and computer science, which merged together, which actually had a large number of common features. So he was a champion. And so I went and I talked to people here, and it was an unbelievable reception. The dean of the business school is enthusiastic. The dean of engineering is enthusiastic. The dean of social sciences, well, he seemed to be enthusiastic. I have people in visual arts, in theater, in mechanical engineering, in computer science, obviously in cognitive science. Basically all over, excited about the possibility of design. Now, I'm a bit worried that all these people are excited because they probably don't know what it is. But nonetheless, there's an opportunity because To me, what design really is applied cognitive science. And when people ask me what I am, I say I'm an applied cognitive scientist. And what's interesting about most of the fields in the university is that they're analytic. We're trying to understand. And what design is a synthetic field. It's trying to produce. But it's trying to produce for people, something that, by the way, engineers have completely forgotten. Why are engineers building things? Why are we writing computer programs or building bridges or whatever we do? It's for people. So, shouldn't engineers know something about people? Or at least shouldn't we work together? So, here's what's happening. First of all, we don't know what's going to happen. And that's very deliberate. When we started cognitive science, before there was a department, we had a program in cognitive science. We got some money from foundations, and we brought in some bright, energetic people. It's interesting. We brought in young people, and there were kind of two classes. Some who knew exactly what they were going to do when they got here, and some who had no idea what they were going to do. And if you look back now, some 20 years later, the ones who knew exactly what they were going to do, we never heard of again. And the ones who had no idea did things like invent cognition in the wild, invent neural networks, establish human-computer interaction as a discipline. The first time the words user-centered were ever used were in a book called Ucsd, User-Centered System Design. The book title, by the way, came from one of the people who was not in our group, Paul Smolensky, whose background was physics, but who went on to apply neural networks to language analysis. And that's what we're hoping. We hope we can get together a bunch of creative people that will do things that we have no idea what they will do. Scott Clemmer, who has actually an interesting background, a degree in graphics from Rhode Island School of Design, and computer sciences degree from Brown and then Berkeley, and then was in the human-computer interaction group with Terry Winograd at Stanford, and now is here. He and I wrote a paper recently for the well-known peer-reviewed journal called LinkedIn. It's a weird place to publish, by the way. They called me, they asked me if I would write articles for them, and I said, what? I didn't know you had articles. And they pointed out that the people who are writing articles, including some of my friends, get like 10, 20,000 readers in a couple of days. So this article that Scott and I wrote has over 30,000 people who've looked at it. And it said, why design education must change. Because design today is an art form. Design originated and is mostly taught in schools of art and architecture. And what you learn when you take those courses is how to design. You learn how to make straight lines. Straight lines like for a month, straight lines. And then you can finally, when you're good enough, you can go to circles and ovals, and then you can go to squares. And then you finally finish the course on two-dimensional drawing, and now you can do three-dimensional drawing in the next course. And then you learn about materials, and then you learn about other things. The result, by the way, is brilliant, wonderful craftsmanship. The details really matter, and the designers are fantastic at it. And they graduate with no other knowledge except the skills of a craft. And then they get a job, maybe they go work for IDEO, and they're asked to design a health system. What do those craft skills have to do with the health system? Not at all obvious. Except that sometimes they do brilliant jobs, and why is that? And I have some possibilities. One is they learn to think by drawing. So some of us think by words, some of us think by writing, some of us think with mathematics. Drawing's a different way of thinking because it's two-dimensional and uses space. Second, they don't know anything. And remember, when you build something, you have to go all across all of these disciplines. You really have to know a lot. And doing a health system, sheesh, there's a tremendous amount to learn. So you have to ask, you have to find the specialists and ask and talk to them. And guess what you do? You ask stupid questions. What's a stupid question? It's one where everybody says, come on, that's obvious. Why is it obvious? We've always done it that way. Stupid questions are usually questions that actually ask about the foundations. And the foundations are something that nobody ever examines. And if you question the foundations, oh my goodness, we don't have to do it that way, maybe. And that's, I think, where the insights come in. Well, I just described sort of a hypothetical, but not completely unreasonable way that designers use their intuitions and manage to do great things. That means it's taught as a craft and it's taught through mentoring, and not everybody makes it. And so one of the things we want to do is change design to it's more of a science. There's more of a foundation of knowledge. And so what we want to do is we want to bring in great practitioners, people who do great and wonderful things but have no clue as to how they manage it. And we want to bring in people with theoretical bent who can actually watch over and interact and try to understand what's going on. This, by the way, has been common. Artists have always been ahead of scientists. Great artists do things with paintings, with sculptures, with drama, with dance, with music, with video. And the scientists often say, wow, what was that? And they study it and try to develop the science. And I think that's what we kind of hope to do in design. We want to bring together a group that does things. In fact, we decided to call it the Design Lab, although this morning Jim sent me an email and said, oh, we should really call it the Design and Innovation Lab. And the subtitle is TOM, Thinking, Observing, and Making. Making is a critical thing. And again, because it helps us go all the way across all the disciplines we need to know about engineering and various kinds of engineering, and we need to know about people. And we need to know about visual arts to make it pleasurable and fun. And we need to know about business to understand what really takes place, what people really are interested in. And we need to do observations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to bring together these groups. And we're going to try to work with a large number of groups on campus already starting. But the one thing we will not do is we're not going to support great work that's already taking place. Because it is great work and it's important. But we want to do something different and exciting. So the chancellor has given me a job offer. Actually, the vice chancellor, the executive vice chancellor made a job offer over a video call. And we shook hands over video. And I'm now waiting for something in writing. That hasn't happened yet. But I'm meeting with them on Monday and Tuesday. I will not be at cognitive science. That's because we want the entire university to take part. And we don't want them to think that this is a special program in a particular department or a particular school. So my appointment is here. My appointment is in the Qualcomm Institute. And we're going to, and we don't know yet what space we're going to be given. We've been looking at it. We've been trying to figure it out, and that actually may take place on Monday or Tuesday. I've been given a pile of money. I won't tell you how much, but it's in the multiple millions. And it's not enough. And so I didn't even bargain. I said, it's not enough, period. And nothing you're going to give me is going to be enough. And therefore, my first job is to raise much more money. And I've already started. I haven't raised any, but I've already talked to a number of people. Well, you know, it's surprisingly easy and fun to get going. I spent all last week, in fact, until Wednesday night, in Toronto at the annual Human-Computer Interaction Conference. And there I met my good friend Bill Buxton. And I said, hey, we're going to start this program in San Diego, and we want Microsoft to support us. And he said, oh, sure, we have lots of programs. We can support your research program. And I said, no, I want you to really support us. And I said, I don't want $100,000. I want $20 million. And he said, if you can work out the patent rights, we can do that. Now, that still may take 2 years. But nonetheless, it's amazing how supportive they are. And better yet, you know, he said, I spent all last week in Del Mar. Why are you in Del Mar? Well, we have a company there. What company? Nokia. Well, his geography's a little bit off. It's not in Del Mar, it's in Rancho Bernardo. But remember, Nokia is now owned by Microsoft. And he said, you know, the person who's really going to be working with them is Abby Sellon. You may not know, but Abby Sellon is a graduate of the cognitive science department, I think. I can't remember. Well, the point is, see, I've been doing cognitive science all my life, and so I have lots of graduate students, and we had this lab, the LNR lab, Lindsay, Norman, and Rummelhart. And so lots of my students are graduates of that before there was cognitive science. Bob is a good example. And so I can't remember if they were before or after the formal department. But Abby Sellon was my PhD student, and she now works at Microsoft Research in Cambridge, England. But hell, if she's going to be involved, this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And that's all I know about what we're going to do, okay? That's all I know. But I will say this, I expect to see something that's really exciting and something that's fun, and most important of all, something that makes a big impact by applying cognitive science.
Don, thank you. And Jim. And I think this day came off really well. And just give me 30 seconds to thank some of the people who made this. Huh?
I got one more thing.
Oh, yeah, of course. Man, with that kind of talk, you can keep the microphone, too.
No, because actually, Ed, we're now in the next stage. We're now wrapping up, and Ed is going to say he thought the day was great. So, no, but I wanted to add to that. Because I may have a special point of view here, because it was an early dream that we might have a program in cognitive science, and then we might have an institute of cognitive science, which we really did. And then, you know, an institute was fun and so on, but we couldn't get a curriculum, because institutes can't hire faculty, and it was very difficult to get volunteers to teach courses, so we finally decided to have a department. And interestingly enough, my good friend, whom I'd known since he was a graduate student, was the chancellor, Dick Atkinson, who was very, very supportive. And it's actually interesting, we are sitting now in Atkinson Hall. So I was here in the beginning, right? And I was the first chair of the department. And so sitting now and listening to the talks and the presentations has been wonderful. Who would have dreamed that we would have had this rich variety of things with such quality that has made such a huge impact on the world, that so many of you went off and did wonderful things in the world, like the panel we just heard about cognitive science in the real world, and not just in industry, but in research institutions and in universities all across the world. On Friday, was it Friday? Thursday. Yeah, I flew back from Toronto Wednesday night, and on Thursday I went to an incubator in San Francisco, with a bunch of startup companies, young people starting companies. And two of the people came up to me and said they were UCSD cognitive science graduates. It's really amazing what has been accomplished by this department. And so actually, I would like to thank you. It's really wonderful to see the results. So that's what I wanted to say. Good timing, actually.
That was perfect, Don. The people behind the scenes who made this happen, we need to thank the Cognitive Science Department staff, especially Teresa Wassam, our MSO, and Beverly Walton, our grad coordinator. Our department chair, Marta Kudis, let's thank Teresa especially and Beverly. They're over there. Our department chair, Marta Kudis, for her leadership in this. The Office of the Dean of the School of Social Sciences and our outgoing Dean, Jeffrey Ellman. Our Development Office, and especially Doug Kurtz, who coordinated this. Doug, thank you. Lunch was provided by our Alumni Affairs group, so thanks for the free lunch. Oh, I missed also technical support right up there at the top. Richard Tibbles helped us get a lot of stuff together. And then I want to thank all the faculty and students in the department. I want to thank all the presenters today, both those at the microphone, in the panel, out in the posters. But more than anything else, I especially want to thank you, those alumni who came back to be with us today. So thanks. And I'm told there's food outside. So thanks again. It was a great day.